Well, hello there, everybody. It's Megan Holly, and we're here for another Taking Flight episode. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm in a season of really kind of having this up and down and up and down. Let's call it a little kind of head to head duel with the idea of fear. And what that means in my everyday life is very vastly different depending on the day. But I thought it'd be a really great thing to chat about on the episode because we all face it. And we all have fear that creeps up, whether it's just kind of little tiny moments in our lives or something big that we're up against. It can be something that can derail us in kind of the way that we navigate ourselves, our lives, our goals, and all of that. But it can be something that can also support us if we allow that. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, because if we can change our relationship with fear and I guess kind of reframe how we perceive it, what we do with it, and what it means to us, then we can kind of create almost a superpower surrounding it, right? And that doesn't take away the idea or the fact that when we are feeling fearful or maybe a little bit trepidatious about something that is going on in our lives, our businesses, it's okay to understand that we can move through those moments. We can feel as though this is hard, but I also can understand where to go with it from here. And so today I want to kind of use some examples for myself of what I'm feeling in fear, some other things that I've went through that have changed my relationship with fear, and the reframing that helped me to kind of take it a little bit more head on in that little duel that happens sometimes in our minds. And so one thing that really shifted for me, this was probably about 2 or 3 years ago, and I was on a retreat doing photography for a client, and there was a zip lining opportunity that I got to be a part of. And some of you might have heard a little snippets of this story in the past, but it's so poignant in my life that I think it needs to be something that we kind of elaborate on for ourselves, and then you can extract what makes sense for you, right? So I'm on this trip and there's a zip lining excursion, and it's the last thing on my life bucket list that I thought I would really want to do. I was like, I don't know, I'm not really big into like too much adrenaline, not a huge adrenaline junkie. My anxiety gives me enough adrenaline rushes. I don't need to purposely give them to myself, right? And so I'm up against this idea of this is an opportunity to do something different, to stretch my comfort zone, to be a part of the group that's, experiencing this together. And then there's the other part of me that's literally fearful for weeks on end. I'm talking, I was laying in bed thinking about it probably 3-4 weeks before the trip was even coming up. And so I was losing sleep. I was creating a lot of stories and thoughts around this experience before even knowing what was going to happen, how it was going to feel. And isn't that what we do, right? So many times we create our own stories, our own just kind of timeline of what something is going to look like, feel like, and what the experience will be. And I can't go back and change that portion of this experience, but what I can do is highlight what happened when I finally took the step into zipping across those freaking canyons in Costa Rica. And long story short, I was the first person out of literally, I don't know, there had to have been at least 150-ish people there, and I was the first person to go, which was good and bad in a lot of senses, because it was great because I didn't have to think, right? I didn't have to ruminate even longer standing in that line, because when we start ruminating is when the real trouble can happen. It can just, it can do a lot to us. It can make us completely just bow out from doing something. And if it's something that we're really called to do, that could be really detrimental to our experience. So here I am at the top of this very long line of people, and I'm standing there and they're about to clip me in, and I have to pull myself up and just let go of this fear of what could happen, what it's going to feel like, and all of that. And I did it. I don't know how in the world, right? My body, mind, and energy kind of just released. But I knew at the core of my being that this is going to be something that shifts me and changes me. And it was. And so when I rewind back to that time, one thing that happened right before it was another person on the excursion was having some trouble and outwardly panicking. And I'm standing on this little spiral staircase with them. And I remember thinking in my head, okay, you have to be grounded so that they can be grounded. You have to hunker down into your strength so that they can do that. And so why I'm highlighting that is because sometimes what can get us out of that fear that is just taking over our senses and creating a space of just negativity, just kind of clouding around us, is allowing an outside resource, a person, a conversation to shift, right? That reframing comes into play. I was reframing my experience because I was taking in the world around me. I was having a conversation with somebody else so that I was kind of, right, kind of elongating and expanding the way I was thinking about it. I was encouraging her to think through, is this something you really want to do? And if so, what can we do to get there? And as I'm saying those words to her, guess what's happening? I'm also listening, right? And I am hearing myself in a different form, in a different kind of just voice. And looking back is really cool because in the moment I'll be honest, I'm shaking, I'm sweating. I mean, all the things are happening when you're about to do something that you're scared or fearful of. But looking back, it's such a beautiful thing. So I encourage and implore you to think of something, especially if you are in a season that is just surrounded with some fear, some uncertainty, some just kind of question marks, and you're not quite sure where to go with it or how to go about it. Look back at other times that you've made it through something that was super scary or really kind of tested your patience and your ability to go the long haul in something that you could have easily said, and walk away from. So take a look at those experiences and start extracting, right? Cherry picking out what it was that brought you to the other side. What resources did you use? Who were people that were super, super powerful in you standing your ground and doing the thing, whatever the thing was, whatever the conversation was? And I have to take a moment just to kind of digress and remind you that this doesn't have to be something big and monumental, like ziplining or, moving across the country. It could be monumental or not non-monumental, I should say, experiences. It could be sending that email that could be changing for you something in your life. It could be changing a relationship. It could be changing something you do for yourself. So, sometimes we think, oh, well, the only things that are worth noting are these big, grandiose things and parts of our lives. But so often it's those little tiny moments and things that we collect like little seashells along the seashore. I'm glad I said that really cleanly. That was interesting. But we collect these little tiny things. And if we do the job that we're allowed to do, meaning we can assess who we were, who we've become, and how we're becoming it, we can reframe this relationship with fear in such a beautiful way. And in everyday life for me, I feel there's at least something that I'm feeling some sort of negative emotion around. And it doesn't necessarily have to be fear directly, but something that's just kind of making me feel a little uneasy. Maybe it's making me feel as though I'm not sure who I am or what I stand for. And I have to get quiet, right, with myself. We all have to do that. How can we find more time in our days to get quiet with the things that create some sort of negative emotion or ill will towards something? And sometimes it's a sign, right? It's a sign that maybe that isn't for us, or we need to reevaluate what we're doing within it. Oftentimes it's a challenge in my head, in my world. That's what I feel. A lot of times I look at it, I go head on, right? And I go, okay, come on, let's go, buddy. Let's do this. Let's take this outside and let's extract the negative self-talk, that Regina George, like little gremlin that I always talk about. What is she doing? And why is she trying to keep me away from it or keep me small within it? And that's the beautiful thing, is when we accept the challenge and we are okay with knowing that this could be the thing that I absolutely need to do to catapult this vision, this goal, to make this shift, whatever it is, then we've already won. And if we're okay with doing this extraction and we get real with ourselves, which I think is one of the most important things. For me, even sitting right here talking to you on camera with a mic in front of me, I had to work through these little gremlins. Regina was like jumping up a lot in my head, going, "What are you doing? You don't have time for that. You don't have this. You don't like, who are you to do any of this?" All of these things pop up, even minutes or hours before I'm walking into the studio and sitting down. And so I had to look Regina in the eye and say, "Hey, I know you're trying to keep me safe, but there's nothing bad, stressful. It is my ancient brain trying to keep me safe from what it is thinking is something it should be fearing and fearful of." And our ancient brains will attach fear to little things like starting a podcast, like changing job careers, right? It will attach this to it when we allow these things to fester and we allow it to go, alarms, alarms, alarms. They're going off. We need to keep her safe. We need to keep him safe. And we have to kind of rewrite, reframe those stories. So things that we can do to rewrite these stories are listen to the words that we're saying to ourselves. If we are talking negatively about it, what good can come of it? We're not going to make any shifts in anything if we're saying the same thing about something over and over and over again. I think it's the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. This applies here, right? If you keep telling yourself you can't do this, or that's scary, or that's for other people, then your whole entire body, brain, existence, energy is going to go, okay, yeah, we're not meant for that. We're not going to even try to understand or learn differently or ask better questions or get support. We're not. We're just going to go, maybe another day, or maybe it's just not for me. But then when you have that little fiery kind of feeling in your belly or that just kind of little bird chirping in your ear, whatever it is for you, that kind of keeps bringing it up. It keeps kind of pushing it back to the forefront of your conversations, your thoughts, where you go when you're daydreaming. It might just be worth saying, okay, maybe I don't need to listen to good old Regina sitting in my brain, just trying to derail me from something that is meant for me to do more of or do in a different way. So having that really kind of clear moment with yourself. I listen to what I'm saying and thinking way too often. I don't know if there's a line, but sometimes I'm thinking, okay, got to shut it off. But it's a great thing in most cases because it allows me to kind of align myself and take a look at where I'm really putting my energy. So once you start kind of taking a look at where your thoughts are going, what you're saying, and not even just to yourself, but even out in the world, right? Like if somebody asks you what you're doing, what's new and fresh going on in your life, and your answer to that could be very telling as well. What are you saying? Does it sound stagnant and stuffy? Does it sound a little bit kind of ho-hum and boring? I don't know. Listen to that. Can you raise your energy and vibration around the conversations that you have? It's kind of like the next little step and space to go into once you start being and paying more attention to what we say and think. Then it is kind of shifting how you allow yourself to energize or kind of deflate what you're doing and what kind of energy you're putting around it. We have the ability to shift our energy on a daily basis, which then can shift our thoughts. When I'm feeling stuck, I know for a fact that my body and my mind need something, right? And I talk about it all the time in my community. You hear me till I'm blue in the face, but it's so true. And it's how I have built a lot of things in my life and worked through a lot of hardship, stress, my lovely journey with anxiety. That is how I have made amends with a lot of it. It is how I have made just kind of going from surviving to thriving, is by listening to my energy and shifting it. And so that's kind of the second part of where we want to make sure that we're taking some time to assess. Okay, now I kind of see what my thoughts are doing. I really understand my own inner dialogue and outward dialogue as well. Now I have to really do the things that make me feel like I can take this fear, this uncertainty, a little bit more head on. I feel a little more strong in this battle. I feel as though I can make some more shape shifting choices within it. And how beautiful is that? When you know that you have more control and just groundedness in what you are doing in everyday life, holy cow, you're unstoppable. Now, that's not to say that life's not going to throw curveballs and you're going to have really hard days and you're not going to understand the language that's going on in your head and you're like, what is this gibberish happening? We're going to have that. But when you get more streamlined and aligned with where you are and what you do and how you operate, the less likely it will be to take you down and just like super spiral into just like a cave of unknowing, a cave of just fear and resentment and all those other emotions and feelings that can come with it, right? Anger can happen, right? When we're just feeling fearful, sometimes we're just like, everything is just setting me off. And so getting in tact with all of this, in tune with yourself, is something that can be such a beautiful experience. And it will open up just a myriad of resources and tools because you're going to start asking for help more. I get it. Like if you're like, I don't really ask for help. I do all the things on my own. I'm just a go-getter, or I can't give up that control. What I have found is that I will outsource more. I will ask for more support, or at least ask questions, or, just kind of get a different pulse check on what it is I'm doing versus the version of me that would just be like, nope, I've got it. I'll figure it out. And if I don't, well, I don't know, like it just wasn't meant to be. It's not really necessarily the most buoyant way of thinking. A lot of, things aren't going to get going and moving in the right direction when you're thinking in that way. And if you're hunkering down and if you're somebody who is kind of like, I always like to say, a recovering perfectionist, somebody who wants to people please, all these things can play into kind of the way that we operate and then what we kind of stay stagnant in or fearful of. Just know that you are able to just slowly kind of crack through that chrysalis, move through it, and just see if you can just let a little olive branch out and bring in support. I promise you that I've seen the beauty of pushing through those fearful conversations or letting somebody in that can really change the trajectory of your everyday life. You could feel a little bit lighter. You can go to sleep without all those heavy thoughts, right? Isn't that where fear, at least for me, I've always had kind of a interesting relationship, let's call it that, with sleep, because that's when fear really kind of rises up for me. It's like you're laying there, things get quiet, and especially in today's world, we can kind of mask that quiet with, putting on music or putting on a podcast or putting on, whatever it is, if you're a TV watcher when you go to bed. But I have since, right, in the recent years, probably the last, I would have to say like 7 to 8 years, been just becoming friends with that quiet kind of challenging time before I go to bed. Because what it's done is give me the freedom to listen to that chatter, know that I can do things like brain dumps that can help me let that fear kind of subside, or at least know that it's somewhere else out of my brain that I can revisit it after I've gotten some nice sleep and I feel a little bit more rejuvenated. It's no place nor time to fester and think and create stories about ziplining, about that change you want to make in your career when you're trying to go to bed, right? There's no worse time. There's really no fun or good time to enjoy the beauty of fear. But when you're trying to go to sleep, it's really not good. So I'm using this example so that we can kind of start to look at the way our energy and when our thoughts kind of collectively come for us. But it's shifted because when I'm asking for help, when I'm allowing resources, when I'm doing brain dumps, and for those who maybe haven't heard of what a brain dump is, for me anyways, and you can do it in so many different ways. For me, it's just having my notebook and dumping out anything that I am thinking about, overthinking about, want to just kind of tap into a little bit more in the coming days. Maybe it's a project or an idea. It could be anything. So it's a space and a place to get all the things that are just swirling around in your mind. And you can do it at any time of the day, but I tend to do it kind of as I'm wrapping up my day when a lot of stuff is just kind of like, hey, you suck because you didn't get as much done today as you wanted to. And all of a sudden the fear of failing and the fear of people judging you for not being as productive, AKA yourself judging you because who is coming to your house or calling you up going, hey, you should have got 3 more things done off your to-do list. Hopefully nobody. And if they are, you need to create some boundaries with that person. But brain dumps are a way to kind of, right, let our brain relax a little bit. We can get to the other side of fear and stagnancy a little more smoothly when we start letting things out. It doesn't have to stay in this beautiful brain of yours, I promise. It can go out. And then you start to see patterns of your thoughts. You start to see where maybe certain places or spaces in your daily life could support these things in a different way that maybe feel more healthy than just letting them kind of fester and ruminate or doing nothing about them, because that's never going to help it, right? It's never going to help that. That's like having something like a problem going on, like a headache, and just continuing on just, it'll go away on its own instead of like, oh, maybe I have some tension in my neck. I should stretch, or maybe I'm dehydrated. I maybe need some water. So same thing with these fears and these overwhelming thoughts. If we just let them just continue just coasting along in the brain, they're not going to go anywhere. So brain dumping is a huge, beautiful space that I have just kind of, I've encompassed, and I love it so much. And so give it a try. And if you already do it, maybe reevaluate kind of the way that you do it, or if maybe you're on autopilot with it by now, kind of taking a moment to kind of refresh and be really intentional with it again. Because sometimes when we start doing things in a routine, we get kind of to that point that we just, I don't know, we just do it to do it. And then are we really getting the full benefit? Maybe not. I don't know. Something for you to explore. And so then lastly, as we are kind of thinking, now we've thought about where our words and our thoughts and our energy are going. We've thought about where and when these kind of extra stressful thoughts are coming, and then some tools that we can do to release them. The last thing to do, and I've kind of already touched on it, is getting so real with yourself. And I know that doesn't sound like super tangible kind of takeaway, if you will, but it really is in my book, because the only way that I've been able to do a lot of the things that have scared me to the ends of the earth is by getting real with myself and saying, you are your own worst enemy right now. And all it takes to get to the other side of this is one choice. One choice to whatever it is that you will feel a little bit more freedom, a little bit more lightness, a little more breath inside of your body. It really is that simple. It is one choice. So often we want these big, grandiose kind of answers to feeling better in life, to doing the things that we want to do, even if they feel big and scary and just way too audacious to ever even come to life. But really, the real answer is, and I don't have all the answers, I promise you that. I never will claim that, and I never will ever own something like that. But the one thing that all of us have in common is that we know deep down that one shift, one choice, one conversation can get us to the other side of something. Or if it's not completely to the other side of the hurdle, it is in the direction in which we can understand it better. We can know if it's for us better. We can execute it. All of these things, right? So what is this one choice for you? If maybe while you are listening to this episode, you're going, okay, yeah, there's one or two things that are coming up for you that you know have been just kind of bogging you down, creating a lot of unnecessary negativity in your life. What can you do? When you stop this and you walk away, what is it? I really, really want you to think about it, and not just think about it, do something in the direction of that. Is it an email? Is it a phone call? Is it going for a walk? Because you know that moving your body is going to be the thing that gets you to feeling healthier, right? What is it? It can be that simple. And in fact, it will be that simple. But then it's just letting that stair step, continue to build on it. Don't just do that one thing and think it's magically all going to come together. Ah, yes, I was really feeling down and negative and in the dumps about this, and I wanted to shift. And I did this one thing, but where's the rest of it? Why doesn't it feel like I want it to feel? Why don't I look like I want to look? Why don't I have the dream clients that I was thinking that this would do, right? We have to be so realistic because I've been there, right? I am somebody who definitely sees the world with rose-colored glasses, but there's also the reality that those glasses come off at night, right? And real life is there. And so taking that step, if I can empower you to do one thing, it is that you can do it. And once you do it and you feel a shift, my hopes for you is that you feel another shift and another one. And you keep feeling that rise in the right direction. And please know that if you need resources or you need tools, that's the thing that's going to keep those stairs being built, right? We need support when we are doing these things, especially if they are some of the harder parts of our lives or the choices that we're making and where we feel called to doing. So call up that contractor to help you build those stairs. You don't have to do it alone, right? And see where that takes you. I would love to hear about what it is that you're working on, what fear you're busting through. Come jump into my socials and say hello and just let me know, because I will be here cheering you on and hopefully being a resource for you to just continue kind of opening up that fiery feeling inside of you that can go head on with that duel with fear and uncertainty, and stepping into the next best version of yourself and really understanding that you're in the driver's seat, my friend. You are in the driver's seat. So if I can just cheerlead you through that and be kind of your passenger with my hair blowing in the wind and just cheering you on, I'm here for it. So enjoy the process, have fun with it, right? That's the thing that I've been kind of taking into kind of account for myself, is having fun with this kind of walk through fear. Don't be scared of everything in life. Let the fear fuel you to understand the parts of you that are so strong and so beautiful. And let's see where it takes you. Have a great time. Have a great day, everybody. I will see you soon.